So just recently, two NBA legends, one active and one inactive, had a war of words during a game, as Gary Payton and Kevin Durant gave one another a piece of their mind.
If you up here, I'm at the ceiling. Hey, look here. I'm on the roof.
Dude, he's gonna come out here in a minute, man.
20 years straight. By the time you was my age, you was the 8th man on the bench.
Same way.
I would do the same way.
This whole interaction and response inspired the topic of today's video, which I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I want you to hear Kevin Durant's thoughts on the interaction.
Yeah, it's always good when I run into an older player, especially in the 90s, who played in the 90s, because they feel like that's the golden years of the NBA. And so I try to let them know, especially GP, I try to let them know what it would have been like if you'd have been on the court with me, you know? So because they tend to talk down on the mentality of our era players. So every time GP, a great sport about it, one of my favorite players, somebody I look up to, got major respect for. And I think this started in the summer at Team USA. We were all in the same room, Team USA, and the first thing I said to him is that he couldn't guard me, too small. Them dudes that he played back in the day wasn't close to me. I was just talking crazy to him, so I guess we just picked it up from there. And I love that I can have that rapport with the older generation of players and let them know that I'm like little bro to them, you know. I always looked up to them my whole life, so yeah, I'm gonna talk a little to them, you know. So that was fun. I got major respect for GP.
You think you made a point to him at the end of that third quarter there with all those threes you hit, because that's when you went back?
That minute, I didn't need to show him that minute of basketball for him to know what I've been doing out here. I got 18 years of footage, so that minute ain't do much. He knew that was coming. Oh yeah, for sure. He going right into that post. He's too small, man. 6'4". Not really physical like that, you know. He's just too small for me, and he knows that. But GP, one of those players that you're not gonna get the last word on him. You know?
How did he say he was guarding?
I still don't know. You know, he probably just try to foul me just like his son do.
Now I gotta be honest, I'm generally not the biggest fan of Kevin Durant. But with that being said, I absolutely loved this interaction and the way he expressed his thoughts on the matter. This is what basketball should be. Both guys are being extremely competitive and confident in their own abilities or former abilities. Although KD is trash talking about the glove, he also does it while giving the glove his flowers and talking about the respect he has for him. And I'm sure Gary would do the same. To me, the funny thing about this whole interaction is how Kevin Durant called Gary Payton, quote, too small to guard him. And this is not a unique statement by any means, as the whole too small gesture has become a frequent and goofy occurrence in the modern NBA. Sure, Kevin Durant is listed at 6'11", and Gary Payton is 6'4". So at first glance, you might actually agree that Gary is in fact too small. But the thing is, it's hilariously ironic to hear KD make this claim, when he's gone on and on about who he thinks is the toughest defender he's ever had to face, which is Tony Allen, who is also 6'4" tall. Take a listen.
If you did screen him, most of the time I feel like, oh, just an open shot. Here, this motherfucker coming flying out of nowhere. I'm just like, and then that's just with you mentally, dog. And then if I get a pin down, and I might be slightly open here, you come out of nowhere, good help. Might get your hand in there, get a stop. Like, I just hated playing against y'all because I knew everybody was focused on me coming off them screens, a pick and roll, and then TA was just good at just strictly one-on-one defense too. So.
Man, I'm gonna tell you this, bro. You after Cole, you the hardest motherfucker I had to guard, bro.
I wasn't relaxed playing against you for sure.
What?
And I feel like you the best defender that I played against in my career.
Man, appreciate that, bro.
And I always tell people, I talk basketball with all types of people, and I tell them this every time. No bullshit. TA the hardest guy to go against, strictly for the fact that you can't get screen. The physical aspects on top of it. A lot of people talk about your heart and your mentality, but like, let's talk about the technique too, which is important as a defender. You skinny up, you don't get hit by screens. When you do get hit, you keep pursuing the screen. You use your hands well. Like you play like a lockdown corner. And somebody asked me, asked me the difference between you and Draymond.
because I played with Draymond and I had a lot of battles against you. And I looked at Draymond like sort of like Ed Reed, where he a safety. He gonna be watching every play, and you know he behind that defense. You more so like Darrell Reeves, Dion, where you gonna follow that guy around all the time. You're gonna be a pest. Yeah, they might have a game. They might have a tough catch over top of you. But for the most part, they know and you know that you've been there the whole game. It ain't no like, even if Dre Rice had a tough game against Dion, he know in his mind that Dion had a good game. You know what I'm saying? He had to bring out his best, and that's how I felt when I played against you. I had to be on point with everything I did, detail-wise, catching the ball, my angles, where my foot was, where my jump shot was. So I wasn't relaxed, bro. I was locked in, trying to be the best I could every possession.
One of the constant narratives that you hear amongst younger basketball fans is that Kevin Durant is the greatest scorer of all time because he's the most difficult scorer to guard. This point essentially boils down to the fact that he's a 7-footer who's lethal from the perimeter. But again, that doesn't necessarily make him unstoppable, because although size is nice, it isn't the most important thing when it comes to great defense. Just as KD said himself, Tony Allen was the best defender he's played against even at 6'4", and the numbers back this up. In Durant's career, he averaged less points and was significantly less efficient against Tony Allen versus everyone else. Specifically, in the NBA playoffs, the contrast is even more dramatic, as KD shot a terrible playoff average of 43.8% when being guarded by Allen. Alongside of this, KD has also talked about how Drew Holiday is one of the toughest matchups in the league, and this guy is also 6'4", just like Tony Allen and Gary Payton. This isn't just a basketball truth in Kevin Durant's case, but this is evident for various legends throughout NBA history. For example, Michael Jordan was almost always a monster in the NBA Finals, but by far, his worst finals averages was when he was being defended by the smaller Gary Payton. Remember, a nearly 40-year-old Michael Jordan famously torched a young 6'11" Kevin Garnett, yet a prime Michael Jordan had a difficult time against a 6'4" glove. The 6'6" Kobe Bryant is also one of the greatest scorers ever, and he too said that the 6'4" Tony Allen was the most difficult defender he's ever had to face. Kobe went up against elite defenders in his career, like the 6'9" Andre Kirilenko, the 6'8" Shane Battier, and the 6'7" Kawhi Leonard. Yet the Mamba definitively stated that it was the shorter Allen who was the toughest matchup. Shaquille O'Neal utterly dominated a 7'2" Dikembe Mutombo in the NBA Finals, who had just won the Defensive Player of the Year award. Yet Shaq famously struggled when being matched up with the 6'7" Dennis Rodman. Ultimately, the proof is in the pudding. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that size isn't a valuable trait whatsoever. Of course, you'd rather have it than not. But I'm simply stating that it's not the be-all end-all advantage that modern fans make it out to be. We don't know that Kevin Durant would torch Gary Payton just because he's bigger. We don't know that LeBron James would beat Michael Jordan one-on-one because he's 3 inches taller. And yet, these are the overly simplistic narratives we hear over and over again whenever we engage in these debates. As is always the case in the game of basketball, the matchups and victories are not decided by who's too big and who's too small, but rather who's too good.